Well, with house prices going up around here, a lot of people don't always consider the fact that still there are a lot of people underwater. And even with houses flying off the market, short sales are still a huge, huge portion of what's going on. Brian Gubernick joins us. His new book, The Short Sale Roadmap, A Guide for Underwater Homeowners, is available now. Welcome back, Brian, all the way up from Arizona to join us in the studio today.
That's right. Thanks, Ben. Thank you, Heather, having me back on Heathernomics today. Appreciate just kidding.
As last time. That's only when I'm out of town, buddy. So, Brian, let's talk a little bit about the book.
Well, Ben, the book, The Short Sale Roadmap, actually just came out. Half our team's down in Arizona, as you know. And the book's written specific to or for Arizona homeowners. However, the Washington book should be coming out here in a few weeks. We had to make some revisions. My partner, Wes Jones, who's on the show frequently, he's working on those pieces specific to Washington laws, Washington foreclosure process, some of the things that are different than Arizona. And we should be releasing that here shortly.
So how'd you get into short sales?
How did I get into short sales? Short sales. Well, that's chapter 1 of the book, Ben, which I'm not quite sure if you've read it yet, but no, I just gave Ben his copy. So in all fairness,
you said it hasn't even come out in Washington. We're in Seattle.
Hey, I thought you read the Arizona edition, but my story, well, I don't know if it's necessarily unique, but my first short sale, as I think we've discussed before, Ben, my first short sale was my own. And so I come from Arizona, as many know or maybe don't know. Arizona, like California, Michigan, Florida, Nevada, kind of the hotbed for foreclosure short sale activity. We really experienced things well before the rest of the nation. And so for me in 2006, I found myself upside down. Really, really caught myself. And then, come early 2007, I had to do something about it.
Well, and I think it's a really interesting story because I did read part of the first chapter, and although I just got it before the show, because I did want to talk about it. And, you had this incredible, I guess, experience that nobody else has, and that's the speed in which you were able to accomplish your first short sale.
Well, when I went through what I went through, I mean, first of all, let's be clear, I had no idea what a short sale was. I just called my bank and said, hey, things are not looking pretty, and I've got to sell this property, and I can't come out of pocket. What can I do? And I was talking to a customer service rep who honestly was based out of India and had no clue what I was talking about or could do it. And I'm sorry, sir, there's nothing I can do for you. And I said, well, something's going to have to be done. I can't do this. So, it was done over the course of 48 to 72 hours. That felt like an eternity to me. Now, if we had a short sale completed, as many of your listeners probably already know, if you have a short sale completed in 48 to 72 hours, that's record-breaking time, right, in today's environment. Well, 2006, 2007, to me that felt like an eternity, but it was just me staying on the phone all day for those days and finally found somebody that was willing to hear me out. And that's when I said, hey, here's my situation. I need to do something about this. If I can't do something about this, well, this property may end up in foreclosure, and I don't think that's a win for either of us.
And so then you kind of took that experience, and you were already in real estate.
Yeah, I was in real estate, but what I was an investor in real estate, and frankly, I wasn't so skilled at the investing side.
No, you didn't really have to be in 2004, 2005.
And that's where
you just had to be a buyer.
Exactly. Well, I mean, with the way appreciation was going, especially in Arizona where things were insane, it was really tough to mess up. I just happened to be one of the first ones that did. Little did I know that, 5-6 years later, I would have helped nearly 1,000 people in situations just like mine. I had no clue that this was going to evolve into a business as it has. I thought it'd be a small aspect of the business, my real estate practice. But today, that's what we spend, the bulk of our time doing on the sales side, the selling side of the business.
Why do banks choose to do short sales over foreclosures?
Bottom line, mitigates their loss.
It's a financial decision. It's not because...
Well, I should say two things. It is financially motivated. There's no doubt about it. However, especially in today's environment, the front page news, the information that's out there for like a Bank of America, for a Wells Fargo, if they chose not to participate in short sales, that would not look too good, in the public's eye. So there is motivation there without a doubt, but bottom line for them, they have shareholders to report to. We all know that. And the goal is to mitigate loss, turn profit, and I think they've had some profitable years as of late. So
yeah, I would say, I mean, just the mortgage industry alone is keeping a lot of those banks profitable.
Absolutely. And those servicing agreements that they have with the Fannie Mae's, with the Freddie Macs, with the investors out there, they're still fairly lucrative. So they're keeping those relationships.
Do you think that short sales are going to become more prevalent here, even though real estate prices are starting to tick up, or do you think people will tend to just hang on and go for the ride?
Well, it's a great question, and I mean, it's one we hear often. And my team, Wes and I, we sit down, and we can analyze the numbers and tell you our opinion based on, what the statistics show. But honestly, we base things based on the conversations that we have each and every day. And I can tell you that each week that goes by, we see an increase in our short sale volume, in the conversations, the consultations that we're doing. So the numbers may say one thing, and I respect that, but hey, based on the calls I have and then what is discussed during those calls, I do not see things slowing down anytime soon. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we are seeing, properties turn rather quickly, which supply and demand, we look at that and say, okay, well, we expect to see an uptick in price. And we will see that, and we have seen that in certain areas. But it's not still reaching the level to which someone could break even. So, you may see some maybe 5% appreciation. In Phoenix, the past year, we've had 18% appreciation in Metro Phoenix, the median home price. That 18% sounds great, unless you're somebody that's sitting with a home that's worth $150,000 today with a loan $300,000 against it. 18% is, you do the math, Ben, you're the numbers guy, but I know that's not putting them anywhere close to that $300,000. That's what, $180,000 from 150 to 180. Well, you still have another $120,000 shortfall. So we're seeing that same sort of thing in Washington. Just the numbers are not as extreme as you'd see in Arizona.
Well, the percentages are probably not as extreme, but the dollar amounts really can be, because you guys have houses for $30,000 down there.
It's true.
Or 50 or 100. I mean,
our median price right now is in that 140 range. Was not too long ago. It was 120. Typically, our team, our Arizona team versus our Washington team, we're about 2.5 times the sales price in Washington than from what we're in Arizona. So percentage-wise, may be the same, but dollar figure, yes, much drastic here in Washington.
We're here with Brian Gubernick with Keller Williams and Homehelper Consultants, talking about short sales and his new book, The Short Sale Roadmap, a guide for underwater homeowners. You talked about that initial consultation that you have with people, and how everything is really unique to their situation. What are some of the big questions that you ask people when they call you and want to know if a short sale is right for them?
Well, great question, and I know this may sound rather simple, but the first thing I almost always say is, hey, what's going on? What I basically am asking is, what's your hardship? What's the situation? Now, that conversation has changed dramatically over the past year alone. Oftentimes, or even a year or 2 years ago, many of those conversations were, hey, I lost my job, or my income decreased, or I have an increased expense, and that still exists today. But Wes will tell you, or probably has said in the past, and I'll share the same today, we have many more conversations today where the primary motivation for the phone call to my team is the fact that the homeowner is so far upside down on their property. And then there's other issues leading to the short sale. But there's tremendous motivation for homeowners today that are looking at their home. They see it as an investment. They also see that they're throwing good money after bad. They're doing the math. We've taken it as far as, we were talking about a bit before the show, but we launched our website, our howshortami.com. Howshortami.com. It's a short sale calculator. You plug your loan number in. It pulls a value based off Zillow, and it tells you how long we estimate it's going to take for you to break even. We don't talk about hardship. We don't talk about the emotional component. We're looking at your property objectively and saying how long it's going to take, because you have to look at your home. For most people, as you guys in the mortgage business know, for most people, their home is their largest investment. And if you have an investment gone south, well, you got to look for some way to maybe dispose of that asset. And that's what we're specializing in doing.
Isn't there some truth, though, to people also need a place to go after that? I mean, I understand the finances of it, but at some point in time, you also have to, you sell your home. Now you can't buy for 3 or 4 years. it's a little tougher than just the numbers sometimes when you have a family that you may be displacing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, please don't misunderstand. There is a tremendous emotional component to this. We'll talk.
And fiscal. I mean, where are you going to go?
Well, we can talk. We'll get to that. But on the emotional side, I mean, hey, first of all, most people are not accustomed to not paying a bill, let alone their mortgage. The mortgage on the property. They're not accustomed to. And in many situations, you cannot pay your lien holder, your bank, if you want them to take you serious. So most people are not accustomed to that. Many people, more so in Washington than in Arizona, may be selling a property where they raise their children. There's an emotional attachment to that property. Now, fiscally, I mean, if you're talking about your mortgage interest write-off that you have, for many people, that's a substantial tax break that if you go to rent, you don't have that same incentive there. So all of this has to be taken into consideration. And ultimately, in doing the numbers and looking at the emotional side of it, you've got to make the decision that's best for you and your family. I mean, for many people I'll talk to today, they'll throw money at the property instead of putting it towards the kids' college fund or putting it towards their retirement. I mean, that's all got to be taken into consideration.
So, there's a lot more than just the house.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that, 4 years as far as recovery from a short sale is extreme. I mean, you guys would know better than me, but what we've seen is usually more in that 2 to 3 year range. I know there's some aggressive loan products that may help them buy even sooner than that.
It may change. I mean, right. as more people start coming out of it, it's a moving guideline.
Right. And then, it depends on how quickly you get the short sale done, how much credit damage is actually incurred, what sort of credit repair programs they can get involved with. You're, again, a much better resource on that than me, but you see what's out there. And the fact of the matter is, with the volume of foreclosure and short sale activity out there, I think if there's not more flexibility in the coming years, we're eliminating half the buyer pool. I mean, we really are. Maybe not half. That's an extreme amount, but a substantial number.
Well, it seems that, there's also that element. I mean, there's that element of where you're going to go, and that is something people have to consider because it's school districts. It's, it's easy to talk about the finance from the professional side, but it's school districts. It's maybe daycare. There's a lot of uprooting that may have to happen. It seems that the opportunity is much easier, or the decision is much easier on, say, like a rental property than your own home. Do you see that?
I would agree with that. I mean, yes, uprooting the family from the primary residence is a much more challenging thing to do than selling, say, a rental property. But these are tough decisions. This is not something you just decide to do on a whim. This is a conversation. Most consultations that we have, by the time I'm talking with someone or Wes is talking with somebody, they've already maybe talked with an attorney. They maybe have already talked with their financial planner if they have one. They've talked with their accountant. They certainly have talked to other family members. And in today's environment, neighbors and friends. So they're doing a great deal of research, and that's one, I would say, major difference from in today's conversations versus a couple of years ago. Our sellers are much more educated. Our prospective clients are much more educated by the time we have a conversation with them. So,
well, I think you guys do a great job, certainly with educating people on the roadmap. Coming out with a book is a piece of that. And then understanding, everybody's position is different. Because there's no way you could just say, yeah, you should or you shouldn't. Because there's so many different, figures and factors that go into it.
Well, the book, it's meant as a resource, as a tool to get them thinking, to better understand the process. Furthermore, I needed something to come on this show with, and I know that you wrote your newlywed home buying book, and I got to compete with that. So
now all the people who read that one a few years ago can call you because their house is underwater, and they can make sure they get their new renter's insurance from Paul.
That's right.
Brian, thanks so much for joining us. We have to go to break. When we come back, Paul's going to come back. Brian's going to stick around, and we're going to talk a little bit more. We'll be right back. You're listening to Brashenomics.